Hello, anybody and everybody out there. Welcome to this short broadcast from windowsontheworld.net. Do please join us 9:30 p.m. tonight, that's Sunday UK time, on windowsontheworld.net live shows for a look at the bigger picture. Yes, an insight into World War III and where it is going. A new paper just released by the United Nations called Our Common Agenda. Isn't that familiar to anybody who knows anything about the UN? They released a paper called Our Common Future in 1987. Now they are solidifying their global power. Is that a conspiracy theory? No, they've been doing it for the past 40 years through non-governmental organizations, through your government, wherever you are in the world. All governments signed up for the imposition of the environmental agenda known as sustainable development. We're going to be talking about that. Really, what can people do about it? Because most of the public are completely uninformed as to what's going on. Anybody who watches our show will know this. We're also going to get into the possible agitation that's going to be put into the so-called protest movements. We've covered this on many, many occasions over the years, from the Occupy protests onwards, how these movements are steered and infiltrated. And of course, the gullible end up in the cul-de-sac. So don't end up in the cul-de-sac. For those who are thinking about this and are able to use a little bit of rationality and keep thinking, then there are answers still available. And I think that answer is to start forming new communities. We have a great audience who listen to this show, very, very informed people. But the problem is that those who are not informed do not want to hear what shows like ours have to say, because they want to hear hopium. They want to be led into the cul-de-sac, and they want to believe that the government or somebody else is going to save them. Of course, that's not true, because it's only the people themselves who can actually do anything about this. And we're going to be talking all about that tonight. So do join us, 9:30 p.m. UK time, windowsontheworld.net live. Take a look at our back catalogue. Going to be doing a follow-up this week to last week's show, which was called The Rosicrucian Mystery. Anybody who's gone down that rabbit hole may know what I'm talking about. This group used the word mystery about as much as the UN used the word sustainable or vibrant or diverse or resilient. Everything has to be a word salad at the end of the day. And we're going to be doing a follow-up to that show. I've actually been looking at the works of someone who inspired this group, known as the Rose Cross, the Order of the Rose Cross, the Rosicrucians, a youngster, really, who died before he was 50, someone called Cornelius Agrippa. And he was very influenced by esoteric writing and these Kabbalists that appeared in Languedoc in France and then moved to Spain. And it's very interesting how all of this kind of usurped really a lot of the thinking of the time. And I'm going to be getting into that in our next show. So do listen to that. There's a lot more to it than meets the eye, but basically it's still a control and management system, which of course is the idea of occult Freemasonry, which is where all this stuff goes to. So we're going to be doing a show on that this week. It's a follow-up to the Rosicrucian Mystery. Also, Tuesday, that's this Tuesday, which is going to be, what's that, the 3rd, for the 5th, the 5th. We are going to be talking to Jerry Marzinski and a special guest, all about the presence of other worlds. And I've been sent some really interesting material recently from Jerry, and we're going to be covering that in the show. We've had Jerry on the show many times. Jerry Marzinski is a psychiatric practitioner who has now retired, so he can talk more freely about the negative entities or demonic entities which attach themselves to people. And this, I think, is very important in this particular moment in time. Also, something relevant to this particular moment is heresy. And I'm very soon going to be releasing more trailers from the Heretics of London, the Smithfield Martyrs, something that's been in production for quite a long time, I know. But COVID got in the way. Did you notice that? Have you found that this COVID thing's really got in the way? And that's the point. If you can carry on regardless and keep doing what you're doing, grow food, try and get yourself as much out of the system as possible, then you'll stand a better chance. Those who are waiting for a solution, though, will not find one because it's not coming. Is that negative? No. The hopium addicts have their own places to go, and Windows on the World generally tries to deal in absolute fact. We do actually put out some speculation, but that speculation has all been based on papers that we've read and real information. So the speculation also seems to come true. So, yeah, quite a good show, I think, tonight. And also, I'll be recapping on some of the stuff that we've done. We covered how the Sustainable Development Goals were being imposed, the restriction of people's property rights. That's a really big deal. And that's something I've been covering about a long time. And it's interesting that when we look back at the shows from years ago, from 2010, 2014, I was talking about forced evictions and how the county court now can conspire. And that's what they're doing with bailiff companies who are basically deregulated and private, essentially, and with the police who act in a private capacity much of the time. People don't realize this because the police are actually working with privateers. In other words, people who don't have proper court warrants, and this sort of stuff is only going to get worse. So we've covered that on many, many shows. I might be doing some more on that in the near future because, yes, this is the issue. There are lots of people, a little like my character, Common Law Malcolm, who are trying to recruit people and getting them into all sorts of trouble. Now, the reason I know a bit about this is because 15 years ago, I tried out all of these things that these so-called common law people are doing. If you want to have a look at an article, there's an article called What is Common Law at windowsontheworld.net, and it's linked to everything you need to know, literally, about how the administration of law has been changed. So it's okay quoting the Magna Carta, but you're actually in the wrong system. We're in a communitarian system of law now where this doesn't apply. And common law still has its place, certainly does, because common law undermines and underpins all statute law. So all law is underpinned by common law. So even administrative law has elements of common law. So you can't separate one bit of law from another because it all crosses over, because common law is basically just a system which underpins most law. Really interested. Jibberjungs, legally minded you. Well, I had some fun with this years ago because what I used to do was go into court. I won several court cases and two against local authorities. And what I found out was they don't know much about the law. And usually what they do is they make massive assumptions, which are often wrong. So anyone who makes massive assumptions is asking for trouble. And I've talked about that in many of my shows, actually. So have a look at that article. Yeah, what is common law? Windowsontheworld.net. And it's linked to loads of other articles. Just it's the links in that article that are more important, actually, but it gives you the history of common law from Matthew Hales, one of our most distinguished Whigs from the 1700s. And this stuff is absolutely fascinating, but we are in a time where things are moving so quickly that it's essential to know the system that we are working in. So I'm going to be covering that UN paper, Our Common Agenda, which really is about the UN now making that final power grab for everything out in the open. And they have been controlling things for a very long time through this unstructured global governance system, of which I talk a lot. And it's all been signed up for by countries all around the world through, of course, not only the Sustainable Development Goals, the Paris Agreement, etc., the Kyoto Protocols. No, go back further, go back to the Lima Declaration, the deindustrialization of the West, the transfer of power to the East, where, in other words, the West would not be allowed to export to the East. It's all written down in that document. I hadn't read the whole thing, actually, but it ties in very much with all the later stuff. So if you want information, do have a look at the website. Also, join us on Discord because we have a Discord server. If you go to windowsontheworld.net, you can join us on Discord, and we have, I would say, the creme de la creme in there usually. If you want to look at some really interesting information and get into some interesting discourse, then go there. Yeah, let's have a quick look at the chat because this is just a short broadcast tonight. Live view comments show up on StreamYard. This is an example. Oh, that's StreamYard. Okay, yes. What's this? Yes, I agree with you, Bebe Ribozzo. Absolutely. Yes. Some people are actually useful idiots of the state, whether they realize it or not. And I think that's a good point, actually, because I think a lot of this is about ego and people who project themselves when they have no real reason to do that. In other words, the priests and the scribes who have something to say get pushed into the background, whereas the useful idiots and the imbeciles push themselves up front. And that is really what this system is all about. It promotes idiots, and anybody who's been involved in anything in the UK will know what I'm talking about. Also, we're going to be talking about the way groups are being infiltrated and the way the next false flag may be coming. So be very wary of this. If you have a group, be very wary of all infiltration. Infiltrators are everywhere. I've uncovered them many times over the years. Some of their tactics and what they do are so shocking that most people in these groups would not believe it could even happen. But yes, it does. And we could be looking at a false flag where people are going to be killed, where people are going to be demonized. So, yes, this is going to be the narrative. Who is going to be demonized? I think we know who's going to be demonized. People who watch this show will know exactly what I'm talking about. And we're going to get into that tonight on the radio show. I don't say too much on the YouTube channel because I prefer people to come to the shows. So thanks, everybody, for being here and looking at these. And do check out the archive. We did a great live show last Tuesday. Have a look at that if you haven't looked at it. And also the live shows, I'm going to start uploading to Spreaker because I think the content on them has been really good. And people have said to me they really like to listen to them. And yes, the conversation flows generally very freely. I try and keep it focused, and there is a lot of information in those shows too. So I'm going to start uploading the live streams from YouTube onto our Spreaker platform. So yeah, do subscribe to us on Spreaker at windowsontheworld.net. What we're trying to do is take away traffic from YouTube. We also put our shows onto Odyssey, and all the links are on the homepage of windowsontheworld.net. I know I keep reiterating it, but a lot of people still don't know. I still get emails asking me where things are, even though I say it on all of these videos. So it's always good to kind of repeat that. So yeah, there's a lot happening, and I've got a lot of information. Also, I'm joining a few other groups, online groups of doctors and people who are doing some really interesting stuff. So I'm going to be reporting on that too. I've kept away from some of the people who are getting interviewed all the time because there's no need for me to interview them. If those people put out solid interviews, then that's great. I also have the same kind of idea about what I put out, because if we go back into the archive, you can look at things like The Plan to Rule the World, which is a presentation I gave at the Glastonbury Symposium in 2019. And that really outlines how COVID came about and what the whole thing is. COVID is merely a driver of the global governance system and the UN Agenda 2030 goals. And they're openly saying that now. Of course, the World Economic Forum joined up with the UN in 2019, but they've always worked behind the scenes. The World Economic Forum has been working behind the scenes with the UN for at least 30 years. So it's all very interesting stuff. And to put it all together is to be empowered. And to be empowered, you have to know how to put it together. And that is what our shows are all about. If you go back into the archive, you can listen to them, pick some out. I found it very gratifying, actually, that people are going back into the archive. When I look at the monthly figures of who's seeing what, a lot of the old shows are still being watched, which is great because the information that we've put out has been absolutely, well, I would say, extremely useful to anybody who wants to know how this works, because it's not that easy when you just jump into it. It takes several years, and there are people out there who have little bits of the picture, but having a little bit of the picture is no good, because that again can lead you into a dead end. So I think that's really important. So yeah, thanks for watching this, and join me in 15 minutes at windowsontheworld.net. We have a chat box there. You can get into that, and it's on the live shows page, windowsontheworld.net, and look out for our next uploads. Thanks a lot, everybody.